Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Foliage. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. So guys, today we'll be talking about another very popular house plant called as the Philodendron Birkin. Now guys, this plant is characterized by its lush green leaves with white and yellow pinstripes. Now guys, this is an hybrid, so you won't find this plant in wild. It tends to grow slightly slow. Usually it's going to reach up to 3 feet if you are placing it indoors. So even though this is an hybrid, but it still belongs to the philodendron variety. And as you all know that philodendrons belong to the tropical environment and they love a lot of humidity. So in order to keep your plant happy and healthy, you have to make sure that it's placed in a humid environment. Now guys, if you do not have a lot of humidity or if you belong to a place that has low humidity, then you'll have to definitely buy a humidifier or you'll have to set up the pebble tray method. Or you can even club your plants together because grouping plants together helps a lot. Apart from this, what you can also do is you can occasionally mist your plant. Probably you can do it twice a week. You can do a light misting. Now guys, when I say light misting, that doesn't mean that you take a garden hose and you completely drench your plant with water. Ensure that the misting is very light. A lot of foliage plants do not like water sitting on their leaves. This could either lead to mold or fungal attacks, so ensure that it's a very light misting and not that you pour a lot of water on the leaves. Now talking about the light requirements, the Philodendron Birkin needs bright indirect sunlight. It doesn't do quite well in low light situations. Now guys, most of the people purchase this plant for its variegation. So if you're going to move this plant in a low light situation, then those leaves will start turning dark green, which obviously you do not want. Now it cannot survive in direct sunlight. Please do not put your Philodendron Birkin in direct sunlight, otherwise the leaves will get burnt. So the location where I have kept my Birkin also tends to receive a lot of indirect bright light. In fact, it receives a lot of bright light throughout the day, but no direct sunlight. Now, usually guys, whenever I purchase a plant, I keep it in a particular location and I check how it's doing. Now this plant was doing quite well. So ever since I've purchased it, I have not moved this plant from that place. And initially when I bought this plant, it only had one variegated leaf, but over the period of time, it has put out two new leaves, which are again completely variegated. Now, most of the philodendron varieties prefer to be root bound, but these guys do not like to be root bound. So probably once every 6 months or probably once every 8 months, you can do a repotting, but ensure that you check the pot properly in case if you tend to see that there are roots coming out from the drain hole, you can immediately go ahead and do a repotting. Watering is same like what we do for other philodendron varieties. One is that the soil has to be slightly moist but not soggy wet. They do not like to be sitting in a pool of water, so you have to ensure that the pot you're using has a drain hole and the soil is well draining, porous, loose, but tends to maintain slight moisture in the soil. So during the summers, there are two reasons. One is because summers are very dry, it's very warm, so the soil tends to dry faster, so you'll have to do a little bit more watering. And apart from that, summer is their growing period, an active growing period, so they would be requiring a little bit more watering. And again, during winters, as I said, philodendrons do not go into complete dormancy, but they would reduce their growth. So during that period of time, you'll have to cut down on the watering. Apart from that, during winters, the soil also takes some time to dry, so you can just try to maintain very little moisture in the soil, but do not do a lot of watering as what you do during the summers. Now talking about fertilizers, as I said, this is a slow growing plant. Your Philodendron Birkin probably won't need to be fertilized too often. That being said, if you tend to see that your Birkin is growing well and it is regularly putting out a lot of new leaves, like mine is putting out a lot of new leaves, then certainly if you're going to add a little bit of fertilizers, it will definitely help and boost the growth. But again, during the summers, you can add a little bit of liquid fertilizers, but during the winters, please cut down on adding or feeding anything to your plant. So the Birkin leaves are very rough and very thick, so usually they tend to collect a lot of dust on the leaves. So it's always better to clean the leaves and keep the leaves dust free. Now guys, please don't use this brush. You'll have to use a soft bristled maker brush. I was very lazy to go upstairs and get the soft bristled maker brush, so you'll have to use that and very gently clean off the leaves. It's very important to keep the leaves dust free, because if the dust tends to settle over over the period of time, the plant tends to have a stunt growth because of excess amount of dust on the leaves. So it's very important that you clean the leaves. Now, if you want to propagate your Philodendron Birkin, the best way is by division. Now, you'll have to locate those various offsets when you're looking for a part of the plant that you want to divide. Ensure that you find an obvious offset. Now, guys, I apologize. I won't be propagating this particular plant because it's still very young and there are no evident offsets. But as and when I'm going to propagate or I'm going to divide it, I will definitely make a video on it. So basically you need to find an obvious offset. For that, you'll have to take out the plant from the pot and then separate the sections. And once you have those separate sections, then you'll have to put them in individual pots. And then you just do the regular care what you have been giving for your plant. Now, talking about toxic, as I said, even though this is an hybrid, it still belongs to the variety of Philodendron. And you know that Philodendron leaves have this calcium oxalate crystals, which can be very dangerous. If you bite the leaf or if you ingest the leaf, it can be quite dangerous. So ensure that this plant is kept away from your pets and small children. Now guys, it's so funny that yesterday when I was making the video on Philodendron Salom, I was advising you guys to be very careful with the sap of the plant, especially when you're propagating it. And once when the video was done, I went to just pull out a dry leaf and the dry leaf was still connected with a fresh stem. Now I was so occupied that I didn't realize that some of the water from that fresh stem touched onto my hand, and I did not realize it at that point of time. I had to go out to the store, and within 30 minutes I started feeling a tingling sensation on my skin and it started to itch a lot. I didn't realize at that point of time. As soon as I came back home, I quickly washed my hand, but the damage was already done. There was so much of immense itching on the skin that I didn't realize until next day. When I checked my hand, I could see that there was a lot of bruising. As you can see in this picture, it was really bad. So just be very careful in case if you're handling a philodendron, whether you come in contact with the sap or not. It's always a best idea to wash your hand with soap after handling this plant. I definitely learned the lesson. So once the video was done, after shooting this video, I immediately went ahead and washed my hand with soap and ensured that it's all good. So definitely there was no itching this time, but I have learned my lesson the hard way. So I hope you guys don't have the same issue, because the itching can be really bad. So especially if you have very sensitive skin, then it can be even more worse. So I hope that this video on Philodendron Birkin was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep planting.